Welcome back, Freedom Family. I am so excited that you guys are here. You're tuning in once again every single week. We are thankful. From me, my team, we are so thankful that you guys are tuning in every single week. And I know that it's blessing people's lives out there. And so I wanted to come to you today as a person that has experienced once again the favor of God. And so what good does it do for us to be in a series that is called But God and not experience it firsthand? And so I am so excited because God once again showed off, even when we thought that it wasn't going to look good. It wasn't looking what we thought it was going to come out as. But once again, God stepped in at the last minute and once again surprised us all. So I want to encourage your faith today. And that's what I'm going to do. I want to tell you a little bit of the testimony that me and my wife and my family have experienced throughout these couple of weeks. And I want you to just take it all in, get encouraged, and understand that God is going to and will do the same thing for you. Now, we've been in a series, like I said prior, a series called But God. And so we spoke about a lot of people that have received their miracles and have received the favor of God in their life. And so we honestly are so excited to reveal this testimony to you guys. Now, 2 weeks ago, we spoke about a woman that was brave enough to just dare to touch a holy man, even when she was dirty, even when she was unworthy. She dared to touch Jesus or touch his clothing, and she was healed by it. And so she experienced the favor and the healing, the grace of God in her life. We also spoke about a man named Jairus, that his little daughter was dying and she actually died. And outside voices came and spoke to Jairus, said, "Hey, listen, don't bother the teacher anymore. Your daughter is dead." And Jesus literally told Jairus, "Hey, I want you to understand and comprehend something. I want you to never forget this. I will always stop for the need. I will never stop for the opposition." And so Jairus was experiencing the favor of God. And when he got there, Jesus told everybody to get out of the room, because there's moments in your life, there's seasons in your life that not everybody will be in the room with you. And sometimes people will leave, sometimes everyone will go. But as long as Jesus is still inside of your room, you will be fine. I promise you. Because he that started every work will perfect every single thing and finish it as he's planned. And so knowing and understanding that he never loses a battle, he's never lost a battle, he will never lose a battle, it gives us that assurance that we're needing as Christian people, that no matter what the storm is, no matter what we go through, he's in our boat. He will always be on our side. We will stand the test of time because his word never fails. And then say, if you're leaning on his word, then you will see the miracles come to pass. And so I want to testify really quickly. These couple of months, you've seen me preach and you've seen me do a whole lot of things. And you're probably saying, well, Pastor Israel he never probably gets thrown away. He always talks about faith. He always talks about believing in God and doing a whole bunch of things for God. So he must be an amazing man. I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of things that go in my mind and in my heart that I have to have constant prayer. Because if I don't have constant prayer, I can lose my mind and think that God has lost handle of what I thought my life would be. And so I want to tell you guys that probably about 6 months ago in January, 6-7 months ago, me and my wife were speaking and having a conversation. And we decided that we were going to, let me retract. On my birthday of October last year, 2019, my wife surprised me, took me out to breakfast, and she said that I was basically going to have a second child coming. And so for those of you guys that don't know, I already have a child. a baby girl named Joy, which God has given that gift to us, and she's been a blessing. But once again, my wife said, hey, listen, we are about to have a second child. So January of this year, something was moved in my spirit, and I said that I didn't want to be the same. I didn't want to be the same Israel. I didn't want to have the same results. I didn't want to have the same outcomes as I had the previous years. I wanted to change something. And so I told my wife, I said, babe, this year is the year of movement. This year is the year of vision. And I don't know why, but I feel it really strong. And so the months passed, and, we were just working on a couple of things. And for some reason, God put it in our hearts to start planting a church. And man, it's one of those things where God kind of doesn't leave you alone. And he just literally constantly is telling you, hey, remember what I told you. Hey, remember what I told you. It's just that little voice that doesn't leave you, that doesn't let you go to sleep. And so my wife just looked at me, opened her eyes, said, well, okay. I get it. I feel it as well. And so even though that we were scared, we started this journey to plant this church called Freedom Church, which you guys are all tuning in this week and every Thursday. And so it's been an amazing ride, to be honest with you. Things that God has done, people that God has touched to bless this ministry already has been, out of this world miraculous. And so but something happened. See, when you start declaring that there's going to be a change, don't think that the enemy or the spiritual world is not going to take notice. See, because when you create change, or when you want to create change, something will always try to oppose the change that you're trying to create. I'm going to give you an example. Have you ever been fasting or ever been working out or trying to eat good, and then all of a sudden foods or people that never offered to buy you lunch, dinner, breakfast, they come out of the woodworks, and all they want to do is feed you food? And so you're trying your best. You're like, oh, I'm in a diet. Oh, no, I'm fasting. I'm trying to pray. I'm trying to keep my mind in order. But out of nowhere, every person that you can think of comes out and says, hey, I want to purchase food for you. I want to buy you breakfast. I want to buy you dinner. I want to buy you something. And so they always try to oppose. Those are called distractions, right? And so when you decide that you're going to change, or you're going to walk in change, there's something always going to be there to distract you from what you just finished declaring. And so I remember that my wife went to her appointment to find out the gender of the baby. And I remember my daughter, my firstborn, she was so happy, and she's always declared it's going to be a girl. The whole entire family was saying, no, it's going to be a boy. Even me, my wife, we were going to say, no, it's a boy. It's a boy. And so my daughter was the only one standing strong. Her faith was unmovable, like a mustard seed. Literally, she literally was like, no, we're going to have a daughter. And so I'm going to have a sister. And I prayed for it. Well, I said, well, if you prayed for it, then let God answer your prayers. And so I remember my wife went to the appointment, and I couldn't go with her because I was working my secular job. And I was expecting a call from her. And all of a sudden, I don't get a call, and the day is passing by. So I get out of work and I call her, and she's not picking up. And that's not her kind of character. She always picks up. And so I was a little worried. I said, man, she hasn't called me after the appointment. She hasn't picked up. I already knew something in my spirit wasn't right. And so I get to the house, and I go upstairs, and she tells me she's crying. She doesn't even say anything. She's crying. And I already knew automatically that I was about to hear some bad news. She said, babe, our child has a mass in her lungs, and it's going to most likely cause liquid in her body, and she can possibly die. There's a high chance that she can pass away inside my stomach. And so it was supposed to be a moment of celebration because we were supposed to find out the gender, and she had in the envelope the gender of the baby. And how do you as a man, as a person of God, lift up the spirits of your wife that just found out that our baby, our child, has a mass in her lungs and possibly won't last. And so I looked at my daughter and I just looked at my wife. My wife was crying. And so, you in those moments, I try to, as much as possible, be as strong as possible. And I told her, babe, let's still have the gender reveal, just between me, you, and Joy, and we'll film it. She said, babe, I don't know. I just don't feel like it. I said, don't worry. Let's put our trust in God. Let's put our trust in God. And so we had the gender reveal between me, my daughter, and my wife, and it was a girl. My daughter was ecstatic, and God answered her prayer, basically, because everybody was going against her. But that moment just lingered in our hearts because we said, well, our daughter still has a mass. It's crazy how in one moment it can be a season of celebration, and in another it can be a season of just pain and suffering. And I want to say something. You got to be very careful, because just because it's the season of pain and suffering doesn't mean that it's not linked to your success or to your end story. And so I literally was in pain that whole entire week, just crying when my wife wasn't there, just sharing tears and saying, man, God, I know that I proclaimed, and my wife proclaimed as well, that we were going to plant a church. We were not expecting that. But it's like God spoke to my heart and saying, when you proclaim and declare something, that you're going to walk in change, that you're going to create change, that you're going to do something that's different, something always opposes you. And so we started going to the appointments very frequently because they wanted to see my wife. She was high risk at that point, and she was going twice a week. And so I went to one of the appointments, and in one of the appointments, our doctor just looked at us and said, well, it doesn't look that good, and I want to give you the option before it's too late to terminate the pregnancy. And I just looked at her, and I looked at my wife. I said, absolutely not. We're not going to terminate nothing. The person that's going to determinate is going to be God. And so we left there, and my wife was just sad, and I was sad, and we were in a moment of sadness. But something overcame my spirit. Something just overcame my heart, my mind. And I don't know why, but I started declaring that everything was going to be fine. See, faith, I want to be very, very careful when I say this. Faith is not only believing in the miracle. Faith is actually standing firm even when there's a storm. See, everyone can believe once it's done, but when the storm hits, can you actually believe? Can you actually walk on those waters of uncertainty? And so I for some reason, God started giving me strength. I said, babe, everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine, because God is a God of order. God is a God that he's a peacemaker. He's a way maker. And whatever his will is, it will be his will, and it will come to pass. And so I told my wife, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build the crib for the baby. And my wife said, no, babe, please. I just don't want to go through that pain. I don't want to think about that right now. I said, babe, I'm going to tell you something. Faith is not waiting just for God to do something. Faith is preparing as you wait. And so as we wait for him to do the impossible, I'm going to start doing the possible. As a father, I'm going to build this crib. I'm going to get her room ready, because we're believing that she's going to still lay in our hands. And so we did her room. We created her room, but there was still that uncertainty of what's going to happen. And so we were talking to the surgeons and cardiologists, and my wife was going to just appointments after appointments. And I feel like my wife took like a strong pill of some sort. I have no idea, but she was probably one of the strongest human beings I know to this moment. When I tell you, her worship was still the same. I mean, it even increased. She would read her word. She was praising. She would still be a mother. She would still be a wife, even with all the uncertainty in her moment and in her life. As a woman carrying something that you don't know for sure if you're going to hold it in your hands, her praise, her worship was still intact. And so it gave me strength to be able to continue moving forward just with everything that God was doing. And I remember that she would tell me, babe, we have to continue with the church. We have to continue every week. We have to make sure that we are there giving a word of encouragement, word of faith to those people. And I remember saying, well, I mean, shouldn't we be worried about something else? Or my wife said, no, we are going to be okay. And I started noticing that faith started coming inside of her heart and started feeding her soul. And so the moment came to go to the hospital to give birth to Grace. And I remember calling one of my good friends and saying, I'm so scared. I'm so scared that something may happen, something might go wrong. And he told me, what's your baby's name? I said, Grace. He goes, there you go. Her name doesn't mean just anything. You have the grace of God over your life. You have the grace of God over your family. And that name means something. See, God gave you joy, and now he's giving you grace. And some people may not understand what I'm saying, but there's moments in your life that you're going through it and it cannot just get any worse. But all of a sudden, God gives you joy and he gives you grace, and he shows you how much he loves you. And so we went to the hospital, and I remember just laying there with my wife, waiting for her to give birth. And the moment came where it was time for delivery. And they took her to the OR, in which a lot of people will understand as had children before. A lot of the times, or the main reason why they would deliver in the OR is either high risk or they're going to do a C-section. And so I can see my wife's eyes just lit up, saying she didn't want a C-section. She was scared. She was terrified. But they were letting us know, no, the main reason why is because once that baby comes out, we need to go ahead and take it to the NICU. We don't know what's going to be the breathing situation of the baby. We don't understand what's going to happen. So just bear with us. And once the baby comes out, it's going to be in the NICU, and you guys are going to have to switch to see who's going to be, watching her and things of that nature. And I got to say something. You're talking about having a high-risk child with a pandemic and a virus that's just attacking worldwide, while planting a church, while still being a husband and a father, or a mother and a wife, and be able to still have the faith to say that God is good. See, we were not preaching while everything was going right. We were preaching because God is God regardless. Whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't make sense, whether he does the miracle, whether he doesn't do the miracle, God is still God. And so we were still believing and still declaring that God was going to do the miracle. And so I remember when we got to that OR, there was like at least 16 nurses, 17, something of that nature, and doctors waiting for Grace to come out and take her to the NICU. And as soon as Grace came out, I remember like 5 minutes of just silence of just telling my wife that she did an amazing job, that she was pushing, that she did an amazing job. And all of a sudden, I can just hear Grace scream, like cry, like a normal baby, like a baby that had like extreme iron lungs. And so I remember just hearing her cry, and it was like probably the longest 5 minutes of our lives. Out of nowhere, the nurse comes back with our daughter, and I'm expecting, hey, we're gonna take her now, and this is what we're gonna do. And the nurse comes back and she says, hey, this baby is going with you guys. This baby has no issues. I'm gonna say it again. This baby has no issues. And so what we were praying for and what we were preparing for and what we didn't give up and our faithfulness and God's faithfulness in the midst of the storm came into reality. And I came to tell somebody, see, it might not look or it might not come out what you think and expect, but God has the last word. And so at that moment, my wife just looked at me. We were not expecting that. And so the nurse said, hey, listen, the baby can go with you. It's breathing. It's fine. It's doing perfect like a normal baby. And so we go to our room, and they have to do a CAT scan. They have to do a echo to see if the mass is still in our daughter's lungs. And all of a sudden, they come back and they say, hey, listen, you guys are going to go home really soon because we can't find anything. We cannot find anything in your daughter's lungs. And I'm here to tell you that don't worry about what the report said. Don't worry about what people said. Don't worry about what the outside voices says. If God is in it, then you just trust in what he's going to do. Because I'm here to tell you that when I say that God is faithful, he is faithful and he never fails. He never loses. He never, ever will ever forsake you. And I'm here to tell you, this is a word that I stand for. We've been talking about the miracles that the Bible has to say, but this is a miracle that I need to say and I need to declare that our daughter was literally diagnosed that she had a mass in her lungs and no longer is it there. I don't know about you, but that is worthy to be praised. And if you want to shout out, if you want to scream, if you want to share, if you want to do whatever you want, even if you want to report the testimonies, write it down on the chat. Say, hey, God has done something amazing with me, with my family, with my neighbor, with our schools, with our children, with their children. God is still moving. God is still creating. God is still in his throne. And so I'm excited because the surgeon came inside of the room, and I remember looking at my wife, and this surgeon came in and he said, hey, listen, guys, we can't find anything. In 3 months, just come back and we'll see if we can find something. If we find it, we'll remove it. But he said, I don't know what was in the air, but he heard me say, I said, Doc, I'm going to be honest with you. Our faith and our prayers is to say that she doesn't have nothing wrong. He just looked at me and see, the spirits know who's inside of God's word. The spirit will allow you to know who's connected. And the surgeon just looked at me. He looked at my wife. He said, can I pray for y'all? I don't know why, but I feel like I need to pray for you. And so he said, I'm going to pray that God, if you guys come back in 3 months, that it's completely removed, that there's nothing there. And I just started connecting with the doctor. I said, Doc, amen to that. He said, I'm going to pray that God finishes the miracle. And I said, absolutely. And he prayed for us that moment. And I'm here to tell you that the peace that me and my wife feel today is a peace that only God can give. Not because the miracle happened, but because he was always with us throughout the whole entire situation. See, this is how you know that you are doing something that God has called you for, because the opposition will come, and it will come as hard as it wants to come. And I'm here to tell you, sometimes it's going to shake you off your feet. Sometimes it's going to make you want to abort what you have already started. But I'm here to tell you that God is in the midst. And if he called you, then he will finish what he started. And I'm here to declare the goodness of God. I'm here to tell you that God is still undefeated, that God is still working, that God is still a miracle worker, that he's still a way maker, that he still knows what he's doing. In the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of your crisis, in the midst of your situations, he knows what he's doing. And so right there where you're at, I want to pray for you. Right there where you're at, I want to take this moment and pray, because God is about to do something amazing in your life. I believe it. Do you? See, because here's the thing. There's going to be people that won't believe, but all it takes is for you to believe. The Bible is filled with people that put their trust in God, and God over exceeded their expectations. Now, it's your turn. What have you been praying for God for? What have you been asking God for? What have you been seeking God for, or been going through for God to change? He's in the midst. He's at work. He's still a way maker. He's still a healer. He still does miracles. And I want to pray for you right there and then. Dear God, we thank you. Thank you for this moment, this time, this space that you've given us. We praise you. We honor you. We give you all the honor, all the praise. And we're so thankful for every single small detail that you do. It doesn't have to be this big. It can be as small as breathing. And we're so thankful, God. We're thankful. And I wanted to come in here and encourage your people. God, we are so thankful for everything that you're doing in our life, what you're doing for Freedom Church, what you're doing for other people, for other churches, for other communities, for other people that are needing you desperately. God, we're so thankful, and we ask you to keep moving. We ask you, oh Lord, to keep doing what you do, because no matter what, we're still going to give you thanks. We honor you and we praise you. Freedom Church, Freedom Family, people that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have been so awesome. Keep praying for us. Keep praying for us. Keep praying for our family. God has given us a huge task to plant a church in the middle of a pandemic, and we are trusting God with everything, with finances, with staff, with systems, everything that he has promised he will fulfill. And so we are so thankful. Thank you guys for once again tuning in. There's been plenty of you that have been saying, Pastor Israel, where can I get hoodies? Where can I get the shirts for Freedom Church? Listen, there's a link in our bio. You can click on there. You can join our Instagram page. You can join our Facebook page. You can join our YouTube page, and you can donate. You can give tithes if you want to give tithes, offerings, and you can also purchase your shirt through there or your hoodie. So if anybody has not already subscribed to any of our social media platforms, right now is the time to do so. If you want a shirt, a hoodie, you can also get it through the link as well. We will be informing you as we go along about all the amazing things that God is doing with us and Freedom Church and around the world. Thank you so much again for tuning in. We love you. God bless.